Oh, hello, leaders. What am I doing? I'm making a pot of joe the fanciest way I know how. We got a great episode today. One of my very best friends, Kyle Jackson, is going to be on. And if you like it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That'd be great. If this is kind of your thing, consider subscribing. Maybe even click that little bell so you get notified whenever a new episode is uploaded. All right? I'm going to enjoy my pot of coffee. I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, you ready to get going?
It's about that time.
About that time to break forth the rhythm and rhyme. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Leadership Lockdown. I'm Aaron Bolton, and I'm very, very pleased today to have the guest that we have on today, one of my closest acquaintances. He is one of my very best friends, one of my dearest friends. I love him so much, Mr. Kyle Jackson. Kyle, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic, Aaron. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being on. I do appreciate you being on. I know that you have a crazy, hectic life, jet setting, going from Dubai to, no? Oh, okay.
Uzbekistan, all over the place.
I thought we were going to have the other guy on. Okay. Just kidding. I don't know anyone with it. He couldn't make it. Kyle, so you're in a unique position. I definitely want to talk about some of the challenges you've come across during this whole COVID, I don't want to say crisis, pandemic. We'll say pandemic because it was called a pandemic by WHO. By the way, when I feel dumb, you know how many times I got text messages in the very beginning? They were like, "Who just said ... And I'm like, I don't know. These are the worst jokes ever. I don't know. Who said it? Took me a little while. But yeah, you've. I want to talk about some of the challenges you've been through. But first, can you do us all a favor? Maybe talk about like your history, the past maybe like 5-6 years, professional history.
Sure. So, well, the last 8 years was called 8 years prior. I spent most of my time working with ConnectWise. So, as a run-of-the-mill sales guy in the organization, all the way up to working with ConnectWise's largest prospects and customers.
By the way, I always wondered why they named that role "run-of-the-mill sales guy."
It would look great on a business card, honestly. It's just
it wrapped around. Around the business card.
Yeah. And you had to actually have an image on there for it to really make sense, a mill and somebody running around it. So
exactly.
Yeah. So beyond ConnectWise, where I can't thank ConnectWise enough for the experience and the exposure to the IT channel. I really got to know and understand what it takes to work with MSPs and IT service providers or technology service providers. VARs or value-added resellers, whatever they call themselves, whatever niche business they're providing services for. I really got to know them, and I can't thank ConnectWise enough for the education, the experience, and the opportunity to really plug into the IT space. Post that, I had a short stint with a security organization that was doing penetration testing. I tried to get them to allow me to have penetration specialist on my business card, but it just didn't work. But I worked with an organization that did that. And then I just recently, within the last 6 months, landed with Tony Francisco over at CloudPlus, which is a distributed cloud distribution platform. Really cool. Built for MSPs, built to enable the IT service provider to really manage and provision and keep up with all the cloud services that they're going to distribute out to their customers. It's been fantastic.
Very cool. So you're in this little unique position here where when I was talking to Mario a couple of days ago, and if you haven't checked out that video, go check it out. It's a good video. But I was talking to Mario a couple of days ago, and I didn't even know this. I knew he was up for or looking for a promotion or interviewing for a promotion, but he actually received that promotion like right when this whole thing kicked off, like a few days before everyone in his office was asked to go home. And a part of that conversation we had was, oh my goodness, I can't even, it's difficult enough for someone, just regular work day, right? Now they're having to switch everything. Said, you are now taking on a new position as a promotion and in a leadership position, overseeing a group of individuals. And you're trying to learn. It's a brand new job. And now you're removed from a lot of the resources you have in the office. You've been working from home for a little bit now, but you've also just started this new position. At least Mario was in the same company, right? So he had some of those contacts. This is a brand new position, brand new company that you've started up recently. And now this now you're still working from home, which is the same, but it does, I'm sure, put stresses on some of the resources who you have to contact and deal with, correct?
Sure. So it's actually, I missed the anniversary of it, but wasn't paying attention, but I left ConnectWise just about a year ago.
Oh.
And the, the main reason for me leaving was because, frankly, I have young kids, and I have a newborn baby at the time, who's now 1. I wanted to be home, and I wanted that opportunity to plug in more at home. So I wanted to work from home. So I had an opportunity. I took it and left what I thought was going to be a long time career for me at ConnectWise. The first year of working from home was an interesting transition, just in and of itself.
Right.
It requires a lot of discipline, and it requires routine. It requires a lot of thought and effort and planning, where otherwise you just show up at the office and everybody's working. At home, you're the only one plugging in this way, or for a lot of people, you're the only one plugging in. There's people who have spouses who work from home. So it was a learning curve for me to figure that out, to figure out how to process that. Now, plug in starting a new job, as you just described, right at the beginning of this crisis. Fortunately for me, I had engaged in this conversation with CloudPlus for a couple of months. So it wasn't like I was starting on day one, and the government shutdown was, the states were locking down at that point. So I'd already met a lot of people. I'd already gotten to know them, and it's not a large organization, so getting to know those people who all work remote as it is, anyways, it wasn't that difficult. I will say it has been an interesting turn of events, though, being a salesperson who is whose sole job is reaching out and generating revenue,
right,
of finding that conversation with potential customers and getting to that conversation without sounding like a total jerk,
right,
which has been a new dynamic for all vendors who are working on selling a product at this point in time.
Absolutely. I had a phone call from like it was right in the very beginning when the cruise ship was in, right? And everyone was like, okay, well, we know that's all we knew. All we knew in the very beginning, if we can even remember that this was only like a month ago, feels like so much longer, was, okay, guys, we shouldn't be getting on cruise ships for a while. And it was that day when it was like really hit the bomb, like, okay, this might be getting a little serious, but still, cruise ship. I had a lady, a salesperson, give me a phone call up and was trying to sell me a cruise package. And I started laughing, and I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm not laughing at you. This is just a very unusual phone call to be receiving. I said, I know. And I felt so bad. I was like, look, I know that you're having to make these phone calls, and I know you're coming across not too happy people. I said, but I'm going to have to decline respectfully. But yeah, she said, you're the nicest person I've talked to all day. Like, oh, so felt bad for her. But yeah, now that's very specific, but any kind of conversation is, especially since there's a lot of uncertainty, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. If you go back and name the company, you look at their Twitter feed or their Instagram or whatever social media they're pushing out their brand on. You go back and look at January and December, and even February in some instances, right? And see what their messaging is. And it's just normal, here it is, run-of-the-mill marketing,
Right.
fodder. Now, you turn it to March 1st or the middle of March, and everybody in the world, from a corporate perspective, is now messaging out to their customers and the world at large and saying, "How can I help?"
Right.
So it's been a crazy thing, and not that I think that companies are trying to take advantage of it. It's just there isn't another message that can
Right.
be shared and and be received in a hopeful, non-evil way, right? How somebody's taking advantage of. How dare you try to sell me socks
Right.
right now?
Right. How dare you? Which is
Yeah,
I
but
I need to
if
get
the
some.
sock if the sock company put out a Twitter and said, "Hey, here's how you wash your hands," like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that video
Right.
or
Right.
keep up. So it's been crazy, or at least it's not to say creative, but you're having to have real meaningful conversations with people first. You can't
Right.
just skip through. It used to be that you would set up a sales call and a conversation with, "Hey, here's a quick 1 or 2 lines on, hey, how you doing, and how things going," and then you get right to business because you didn't want to waste their time. You didn't want to pull them into unnecessary conversation because they're always busy.
Right.
Now, if you go right into business, I mean, you're just insensitive, and
Right.
rightfully so. Everybody has a story to tell, and everyone wants to have that conversation.
Everyone wants to be heard. That's true. Everyone wants to be acknowledged, wants to be heard on different levels, however is most comfortable to them. And
True.
I think that's a really good point. So how are your conversations going now?
It's good. Interesting enough. The old adage that um, relationship selling was dead
Mhm.
is completely on its head now. So as somebody who's always fought that and sold by building relationships,
Right.
it's been fantastic. I'm in my element. The world has come to me, and not to say I'm taking advantage of that, but my natural resting state is, I want to get to know you. I want to understand, how this is going to work. And I think I was, naturally born with empathy. I think God blessed me with the ability to kind of quickly engage with somebody and understand their perspective on something. Um, but starting at them has been very, very interesting, very rewarding. Um, getting to know their story and what's going on with them. I mean, I had a call with a guy this morning who whose wife, uh, earlier this year, before all this came out, got N1H1 here,
Wow.
and at first they thought it was coronavirus, COVID, and so what a any normal year other than 2020, if this happened in 2019, would have never gone to that place with this guy. But we've started
Right.
with that. Because it was just it's a different way to connect with people. Not to mention that the entire world is now for some reason okay with video chat.
Yeah.
So everybody is down with turning on their camera.
Hmm.
And I mean, 5 months ago, I would get on a call and have a conversation with somebody, and I maybe 5 or 6 people on a call, and I'm the only one with my camera on, and they're
Right.
all looking at me, and I'm doing everything I can to not raise my hands or touch my face or do all that stuff because I'm the only one showcased on screen.
Right.
Everybody is cool with video cameras. So I I'm hopeful that this comfort level with being able to see each other and having cameras on at all times sticks, because man, it is such an easier conversation to actually see somebody and get to see their expression and understand
What I
how
think
they're
is,
saying what they're saying.
oh yeah, definitely. What I think it really shows is how much we need that human connection. We really yearn from it. We really yearn for it. And uh, right up until this, I mean, sending a quick text message, even to a business associate was considered fine. You know, it was getting to the point where, yeah, I mean, I remember leading a sales team, and they would text me, oh, I'm sick, oh, I'm not feeling well. And I told them, I said, listen, you're going to have to give me a phone call for that, you know. And it got to the point, you know, up until recently where, okay, just text me, you know, manager saying just, and that was acceptable. And I think the reason that it got there was because there wasn't any type of restrictions on people having, you know, a physical or social connection, you know, face to face,
Yep.
person to person. And there's so much social media out there. There's so many ways to communicate that it was just like, all right, I'm just gonna send something over. Well, now we've taken the biggest part of that element, the social, the element of the person to person, we've stripped it, and that needs to now be replaced. You know, text messaging just doesn't seem like enough anymore, and a quick email doesn't seem like enough. We need to have this face to face. It's important.
Yeah, I think that quick interaction with a text message isn't going to die. I think it'll stick around for some time. But I think you did hit on something. That the reality is um, that interpersonal conversation. You know, I'm not going to get all up in your face, but
Yeah.
being able to see and understand my inflection,
Mm-hmm.
you just can't trade that, right?
Right.
You just can't. You know, there's so much nonverbal communication that gets lost in our standard 2019 business meeting that hopefully goes away now.
Right. What hopefully goes away as in, what do you mean? Like hopefully.
Well, that going back to those meetings where if anybody is not in the room, that they're on video right now. Oh, that there's I remember having colleagues a couple of years ago, and everybody in the office, 9/10 or 95% of everybody worked in the office. 5% was remote.
Right.
How frustrating it was for them to not be a part of this, and
Right.
how even large companies weren't prepared for how to maneuver that and bring them in, or how remote locations and remote offices where you've got multiple offices, how there's a disconnect between locations because you're not seeing each other. I went to head of HR one time at one of these big companies and said, why don't we just set up a camera of their break room and one in ours, and if anybody walks in the break room and they want to have a conversation with somebody at one of the remote locations, they can just say hi,
I
just to
think you
bridge
told me
that
about
gap.
that. You told me about that one time. That's a really good idea.
It didn't happen, but the reality is, I think now's in the environment now, everybody's kind of shifting this. If corporate America accepts it, those types of things, I think would be reasonable. If people go back to working in an office, that they want that interaction with each other, that they'd covet it.
Yeah, I think one thing it's showing is, um, even in business meetings, right? Well, you're at home, right? You're naturally more comfortable at home. You're more relaxed at home, but it's not just like you were saying, the 5% at home, 95% in the office, where maybe that 5%, that one person in the meeting who's at home, he or she, they're the minority, right? So they have to maybe raise their level up to like the office, right?
Yep.
So if a dog barks in the background, a kid cries in the background, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you know. But that isn't real. You know, that's not real life for the situation that person's in, right? So they're having to alter it. Now everyone's on that same playing field. Everyone's and everyone's okay with it, because it's like, all right, well, this is just what we have to deal with, and it's fine. And I think it's when people act, or they're in a more comfortable place where they feel more connected, they feel more real, conversations are more real, and it cuts through a bunch of BS. You know, just puts it aside. I'm going to get right to the matter, and we're going to talk. We're going to have an open conversation. Sam
Sure.
DeMuling, you know Sam, right? Sam DeMuling.
Of course.
Yeah. So Vicky told me that that they were having a Zoom meeting or something, you know, a video conference. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
and a hawk came down and was like trying to attack his ducks outside, and he just jumped up and ran out to save his ducks.
Yeah, Sam lives on a farm. He
Mm-hmm.
grew up on a farm, and he has he has a like an in-law suite, like a separate house on his property, and he sits there, and there's a big window, and he's got a little pond, and his kids take care of the ducks, and he's got a whole bunch of kids, a whole bunch of ducks, and yeah, evidently a bird of prey was
Not
really
together, right? Like he doesn't have the kids out with the ducks. Like they're out with the
at
duck
both
always.
at both times, I believe. Yeah,
Good.
at both times, I
Good.
believe. Yeah,
He
yeah,
was actually wondering what the hawk was. Hawk is going for the kid or the duck, and then he was like,
yeah,
"Duck! Oh no!" And then he had to run.
yeah.
No, but I like that story so much because it really I could see that happening uh, months ago, And what's Sam gonna do? Let a hawk take a duck away, So he's gonna jump up and go. But if he was a one person on a video conference, when he came back, people probably would have been annoyed. They would have been like, "Oh, all right," they maybe a little
Sure.
goofy, but it wouldn't be taken as well. That just wasn't professional. I mean, can you imagine? uh, uh, maybe a director, vice president, somebody on the call too, and they're in their office, and I need to have a talk with that person. But now, what are you going to do? You're home, and I think when everyone's at home, they're now reminded that everyone has lives outside of the office, and those things pop up in your personal life that have to take precedence over business. It's okay;
Sure.
those things live together.
Yeah. Again, everything's on video now, working from home. I can't tell you the biggest difference for me is the fact that my family is here. My kids are in the house all day, every day,
Right.
which I don't say that are a bad thing. We're making the most of it. We're having a great time. Um, yeah, doing family time 24/7. Uh, and even being forced into that it's been awesome. But I can't tell you how many times, even just this week alone, one of my kids has come in and grabbed something off the printer behind me in the middle of a meeting and turned around and walked out. And it's not even acknowledged now because
Right.
I can't. The reciprocal has happened on so many calls that I've been on where somebody is in the background. Um, yes, the world has changed and everybody's acceptance of that change has changed, and hopefully, and this isn't at the same level, but hopefully, like 9/11, when everybody was supportive of their neighbors, and even now it's a little interesting because you want to be helpful, but I don't want to touch, and we can't
Right.
get close to each other. So
Right.
it's almost it's an odd situation where I think everyone is in a place where they would be willing to be helpful if it didn't break protocol and the necessary social distancing. So
I think
hope
everyone's at a point of, "Hey, you okay over there? You
yeah,
you all right?" Yeah.
yeah. Well, my office is at the front of my house, so I'm looking out my front one of the front windows of our home, and I'm one of those people who, when I come and sit down in the office, it's this way in the office or even here in my home, where I don't leave until I'm done. I very hardly get up and walk out. I may stand up just to stretch or walk around for a few moments, but I stay here. So I'm sitting and looking out this window, typing on my computer, doing whatever I need to do during the day. I can't tell you the dramatic difference between February and March with how many people in our neighborhood are walking, jogging, riding bikes. The the family interaction has just gone through the roof. I
Right.
mean, it's just I've met from a distance more people during this in my neighborhood than I had the previous 6 months. It's just been interesting to see the dynamic of how the community's changing and evolving a little bit too.
I thought our daughter was the only kid in our neighborhood her age, like around her age.
Sure.
She's never. I remember hanging out playing with kids in the neighborhood. She's never played with any kids in the neighborhood. She's lived here her whole life, and in the past, it feels bad now. I feel bad now because she's out in the front yard. We're in the front yard with her playing, and kids are across the street, kids are riding around in their bicycles, you know, all by themselves. And I'm like, where are these kids? And I feel so bad for her because she kind of like
Yeah.
looks around, kind of moves a little, but she knows she can't. And I'm sure she's thinking the same thing. She's like, where have you been? Where have you been this whole time? There's an older gentleman. I have no idea where he lives in the neighborhood. Maybe he's from the neighborhood, but I've seen him now in the past week about 4 times riding his bike in the neighborhood, and he rides around to find people, and he says, "Hey, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Just want to say hi to you." And he does that. He rides around the neighborhood for a few times just to say hi to people. I think that's it's something that I haven't experienced. You know, it's almost like um, a Mayberry feel. You know, where's Andy Griffith when we need him?
Sure, absolutely. So I think I'm hopeful that out of this, the reality that exists now rides forward a little bit further. That we're learning not only from our lack of preparation for things like this, which have been um, a possibility for many years, and there have been people calling for better preparation for some time. So hopefully, that the next event that has any ring to similarity to this, um, we as a country and a nation and states and local communities are better prepared. That being said, I don't think the business world is going to change dramatically, though. So for all those people who are scared that they're not really sure how, when the economy comes back or when people are going back to the office, I really don't think that there's going to be a dramatic shift to where people are going to feel uncomfortable or they're not used to it. We're going to fall back into old habits, which in some cases will be good because it'll be business as usual, and that will kickstart the economy, and everybody will get back to doing what they want to do. I'm praying, legitimately praying, that the impact that this has had on work-life balance, not only for employees but employers, I hope that they take that seriously and bring that with them when they go back to the office. Because let's face it, there are leases, there's commercial real estate, which, by the way, if you're an investor in commercial real estate, you might want to consider alternatives going forward, because I think there's going to be some change there. But I'm hopeful that those business owners who have spent the last however long it is until we get there, um, connecting with their family and plugging in, and I hope that importance is it becomes a part of the norm for their employees and their playbook and their HR handbooks, and I hope it's important for them. Um, so who knows? Roll a dice, crystal ball. Do you have any way to tell the future?
I had some runes, but I misplaced them at this point.
Okay.
But this is a good place right now to acknowledge and give some time to the sponsor of the episode today. We got a sponsor. Masks. Wear them. All right. Moving on. That was it. People need to wear masks. Look at that.
So no, I did not buy N95 masks off the internet. I'm just one of those people who hoards, and they were in my garage, and I found them in my garage 2 weeks ago, and I did a happy dance over masks.
Can we see that?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. So, what advice can you give to people? In general, just no. On I heard you make a good brisket. I heard you make a
clean your fingernails. No, it's the same advice that I would give anyone in any situation. I think the most important thing, maybe more important now, is consistency. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Consistency is important. Your employer, your employees are in new situations. They're their environment has changed, maybe their workload has changed, maybe there's fewer of them and their responsibilities have changed. But consistency matters for everyone. There's a known statistic that basically says, people don't leave bad companies, they leave bad bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to be one of those people right now. You really want to, set expectations,
A person
communicate.
who leaves or a bad boss? You don't want to
The
be which one?
boss,
Okay.
the boss, excuse me. Yeah, you want to set expectations. You want to over communicate. You want to be consistent. You want to drive normalcy where you can. And I think in these situations of uncertainty, the next thing that I would say is important would be honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing replaces the need for integrity. Being true and being who you are and being forthright is is more important. It's always important. It is never going to be less important. But when people are questioning, their livelihoods or their ability to move forward, having a leader that is forthright and having somebody who is just honest with them really goes a long way. Being able to trust the people who kind of carry you into battle, so to speak.
I think, yeah, that's true of all times, especially now. I mean, all those things that are true in all situations, they're just heightened, especially when things get uncertain. When things get
Sure.
uncertain and we're moved to our uncomfortable, moved to a state of uncomfortable, that we're not comfortable. I'll get those words out. We want those things that should be common. We want to see those more often. We want to feel some type of normalcy. We want the truth, and we want it. We want to see it and hear it from you. Before maybe we'll be okay with, oh, well, they kind of scudded by the truth a little bit. Maybe didn't tell, well, that kind of garbage. But now it's like,
Sure.
listen, what else do I have? What else? Just just do me right.
Yeah. And I'll say this, it's got to be hard. And I would say it would be, I've never experienced this. I've never built a business. I've never started a company and taken on that risk and that responsibility. That in and of itself of being an employer is a stressful thing. I can't tell you, having in conversations with, those people who've taken that leap and that risk, both, financially and just the sheer amount of stress, that's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
2019, difficult. 2020, through the roof stress.
Right.
So I would say the flip side of that, as an employee, understand that your boss, who is now dealing with, this, or your the business owner who is responsible for your paycheck, has more on their plate today in a different environment and with such a higher level of stress. Um, so it's time to be, as an employee, a little bit understanding about their experience and what they're going through, and how that's impacting them. Not to mention, there's a pretty good chance, depending on where they are in life, that they're working from home too, and they've got loud kids running through their house, and if their kids are older, then shame of them for running through their house,
Right.
at 40 and making all so much noise. They should know better.
That's
But
I was going to say 28, but 40 is better.
yeah, listen, 40-year-old, you should know better.
You
Don't
should
run
know
through the
better.
house being loud. Daddy's on the call.
Right.
But their lives have upended too, and they're dealing with stress. It's a perfect opportunity for everybody engaged in this experiment of work, and getting paid and doing a job, for everybody to be a little understanding.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
I think I'm pretty sure I mentioned this to you, but the whole point of this podcast I wanted to have is,
this is the
you know,
podcast.
oh yeah. Oh, I got to hit
My bad.
record. No. So, but it is, people on a daily basis, regular 2019 at work, they'll come through challenges. They'll need some type of instruction, some type of advice, but it's difficult for a lot of people to step out and ask for that advice, ask for that guidance, because maybe they're fearful of being looked down upon or not knowing what they feel they need to know. So a lot of times they don't get that help. But now we have, maybe they have still those challenges and then a whole bunch of new challenges, but they don't have the person next to them that they can ask if they could. And, they have to, find that help somewhere else, or either from the podcast, or if they reach out to someone else who might know the answer. Now those other people are going through new challenges too. Their bosses are now having to think, how am I going to manage all these people and make sure I'm hitting what I need to hit while my kid's running back through behind, and all this is happening, and someone's knocking on the door for whatever reason. And yeah,
But it's doable though.
yeah,
And
definitely.
it's doable. Let's say you can handle in this environment 90% of the task. Guess what? 90% of the task in this environment is probably perfect. In fact, it's fantastic, right? That's okay. So everybody's expectations change a little bit. There are companies that are still hiring.
Right.
They're hiring.
Amazon's hiring huge.
Well, let's just forget the large organizations, but there are still small businesses across the country who are hiring, right? Or even medium-sized businesses who are hiring. How are they onboarding people, right?
Yeah.
As somebody who's done that, in your experience, right? That interaction, interpersonal interaction, making somebody feel comfortable. That's something you do in person. It's easy to do that. Here's the paperwork, and fill this out, and here's your key card, and here's access to all the systems, and let me help you walk over here, and let me introduce you to so and so, right? That doesn't happen today, but yet they're finding ways to do that. They're still hiring people. They're still onboarding them. They're still training them. They're still setting them out into the world to provide for themselves and accomplish the goals of that company. So you asked a few minutes ago about advice. I guess the advice is, you got to figure out what used to be versus what is, and what part of that is acceptable now. What can I do now that's close enough to get me there? And we haven't even figured out yet. Perspective is going to give us the opportunity to look back at this and say, man, this is better because the way we do it now is better because of these things. But we've yet to experience the benefits of some of the changes. So I think we'll get there to some degree. And again, when we get back to the office and people are, in front of each other, some things will go back, but I guarantee you we will have learned some lessons and brought from our homes back into our offices those experiences and excel even more so.
Very good. Great words. Great advice. Hopefully we don't bring our 40-year-old son running. What are you doing in the conference room, Hank? Can I borrow the car?
Awesome. This is funny. I'm turning 40 this year, but this feels like something I would do.
Right.
It feels like I would run through the house making noise while Dad's on a call. So maybe it's not that far-fetched.
I can see your dad. Kyle?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, could you do us a favor? Can you lead us out with by playing one of your miniature guitars?
Yeah. They're not real guitars. It's one of those fat heads. It's just a sticker.
Okay, just a sticker. It would have been better if it's like, actually, no, that's a plugin from Zoom. You can just put them up there. Awesome. Kyle, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate it. You're going to be doing stand-up, and are you in any movies that you want to plug? We have a clip.
Roll the clip.
Roll the clip.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You forgot to ask me to set up the clip.
Yeah. Can you set up this clip?
Yeah.
Well, movies like the Rock's in. That's not the movie I'm in.
If you don't insert the Paul Rudd Conan video at this point in the clip, I'll be disappointed.
Which one is that?
Are you kidding? Oh my goodness. Go look it up, then insert the video of that here in this clip. Here's the clip. It's
I'll post
hilarious.
it. I'll post it, but I can't play it because I'll get booted.
That's true.
It'll
So
be here. It'll be like, hold on, let me see. It will be right here. It's going to be right here.
every time Paul Rudd went on Conan to promote a movie, he'd spend the time setting up the scene in his new movie, and then when they ran it, and I wish I could remember the clip. It was some terrible '80s alien clip, and it was the same clip every year,
Oh, that's great.
like probably 6 or 7 times. It's hilarious.
Okay, good. I'll watch it, and everyone else can watch it too, right here.
Right there.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy.
Love you, man.
Take care. I love you.
Peace. End scene. Awesome. Very good. I like your collection of the world's smallest guitars.
One of them actually is pretty small.
Nice. What puppets did you steal them from?
Are you recording?
Yeah. I'll cut this out.
Yeah, that's what you say in every video.
Yeah.